Once you get the two plug wires plugged in, make sure that they are routed underneath the turn signal module wiring harness and over top of the grounding lug wires. Okay. Plug in your signal wire to the bottom of the coil, and the coil should slip right into place there. Okay. You want to take your nylon battery strap and put it underneath the left hand coil mount. Make sure that it's bolted, that it's the hole in the battery strap is in the right place for the coil mounting bolt to go through it. Okay. Alright, now we've got the battery strap under the left side of the coil mounting. And we're going to tighten up the two coil mount bolts. Okay, and that is a, let's see what size it is, 3/16 Allen. Okay. Next, we're going to remove the four BaggerWerx 5/16 inch nuts from the battery box, as so. Okay, now we're going to attach the wire harness to the ECM. Make sure that your locking lever is all the way back. Plug the ECM in. Rotate the lever forward. Clips into place, and then put your locking tab through. So. Okay, now we're going to rotate the ECM into place so it'll mount on the four studs on the side of the battery box. Now that the ECM is mounted on the four studs on the side of the battery box, we'll put the 5/16 inch nuts back and then move to the next item. Next, we're going to put the relocation plate on top of the ABS module. Make sure that you have one copper crush washer on each side of the relocation plate. We're going to mount the ABS module. First, we'll put these rubber grommets into the three receivers on the BaggerWerx battery box. Next, plug in the wiring harness for the ABS module. Okay. Two side bolts for the ABS module need to be mounted through the inside of the battery box. Just get them started, leave them hand tight, because you'll have to be able to adjust the position on the ABS module as you attach the brake lines. Okay. Each of these brake lines has two letters at the end of the part number: MR, R, MF, and F. Okay, the four holes on top of the ABS relocation plate have corresponding letters: MF, MR, R, and F. Okay, make sure that you put the appropriate brake line on the correct hole. Okay, you'll have to adjust the banjo fitting on the ends of each brake line, left or right. Bend them very, very slightly and very carefully in order to get them to fit flat on the relocation plate. Okay. Once you've attached all four lines to the battery or ABS relocation plate, you can tighten the two mounting bolts from inside the battery box and the one rear bolt. Tighten them up. Okay, next we're going to zip tie the two O2 sensors and the rear wheel speed sensor to the up tube on the frame, the stock frame. We're going to zip tie the extra on the wire harness for the ABS module and the two. Next we're going to mount the two front bolts that hold the battery box to the stock frame and the turn signal module mount. As you notice, we're going to use the stock bolts, and we're going to come through the turn signal mount thusly. Get a hand tight. Okay, after putting in the turn signal mount and battery box bolt on the left side, we'll have to put the one in on the right side. Keep in mind that this was shot out of sequence, and it'll have to be done before you actually install the ECM and the ABS module. Next, we're going to reroute the purge solenoid for the emissions control system. First off, unplug the wiring harness to it. Okay. Mount it. Okay. I'm going to trim the vacuum line going to it. So measure that, cut off the excess. Okay. Plug that in. That'll be routed underneath the main wiring harness and in front of the trigger wire that goes to the coil. Okay. We're going to mount the turn signal module. Okay, plug it in. Make sure that both sides the clip is connected and in place. We're going to thread it down, pulling the battery cables out of the way. Push it down into the mount. 3/4 inch mount. Okay. When you finish mounting this, the module should be flush with the top of the frame here and vertical up and down both directions. Okay. Next we'll trim the hose that goes to the tank side of the charcoal canister. Here. And we'll move the wire harness out of the way and put the purge solenoid for the emissions up underneath the wiring harness. Next, using the stock battery strap here, we're going to install the battery. Making sure that all the wires are out of the way. You should have only the main wiring harness to contend with. Put the edge underneath the wiring harness. Okay, take the battery tender cable that you disconnected when you took the battery off the stock battery out of the stock battery box and set that in place. Naturally, the black goes with negative cable and the red tip goes with the positive cable. On the side mounts of the battery, connect your negative and positive battery cables to the battery. Okay, next we're going to put the rear wheel speed sensor back underneath the ABS relocation plate and zip tie it to the frame here. We're going to take the two O2 sensors from the exhaust, put them up in here above the relocation plate, and zip tie those wires to the frame here. That'll keep them out of the way for the side cover. Then we're going to take the battery tender wire and zip tie it up here so we'll have that much play and it'll sit right underneath the ABS module. Next, we're going to attach the subframe assembly to the stock main frame with 3 bolts, 2 on the top here and here and 1 on the bottom. Okay. Jiggle the subframe assembly slightly to get red Loctite on these bolts so that they won't back out on you ever. Okay. Once you're done with all 6 bolts, tightening them up, you want to tighten them to 60 foot-pounds of pressure. And you want to be very careful with this particular bolt, the bottom right-hand side, because it, if not put in exactly, it will cross-thread and strip out. We'll take the ABS diode, the rear fender wiring harness plug, data link connector, the siren connector harness, and the radio antenna wiring harness. Run them behind the frame and up between the frame and the battery. Take the new battery BaggerWerx fuse box and plug the fuse box into it. Okay, then we'll take the 40 amp maxi fuse holder and plug that into the back of the fuse box. Press it into place. Next, after you've got the 40 amp maxi fuse and the fuse box in the holder, you're going to put the holder inside the frame. This is pretty tricky and it might take you a couple tries to get it right. You just got to go inside the frame and then slide up.